Hello you guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, thanks for clicking on another video. Hi, my name is Erin if you're new, and today we're going to be getting into that time again, wrapping up the month, everything I read for the month of May, which was a very exciting month because it was as a teacher, it was getting ready for the summer break, getting ready for the end of the year, so it was a very busy time as well. So I didn't read. Actually, I did really pretty good this month. I had my TBR, and we'll get into all the stats, all the stuff for this month in just a second. But anyways, if you like videos like this, talking about books, reading, etc., this is definitely the place for you. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I also talk about movies, makeup, and other topics here on my channel, so definitely think about sticking around. But yeah, without further talking, blabbering, let's get into everything I read for this month, and definitely let me know what you read for the month of May as well. So, let's get into it. Alright you guys, so for the month of May, in my reading journal, I did a Dark Tower theme because I had plans to read the last book in the Dark Tower series, which is book 7, called The Dark Tower, number 7. And I did a cute little theme here where I have like the tower, and then I have some different images from the books, like Blaine the Mono, The Wizard in the Glass, The Wolves of Kala, The Crimson King. Of course we had to have Stephen King here. Of course, none of these images are my own. I just got these. And then I put All Things Serve the Being, and then I put for May. And then we have kind of like the like ball, like a crystal ball type of thing situation going on, and then some like stuff coming out. But anyways, for this I went ahead and put my TBR here, and for this month I had 7 books that I was looking to read, and I actually read all 7 books, so spoiler there. But I had 7 books, and we'll get into the ones that I had on my TBR here, and which ones I read, which was all of them. And I in total read a total of 8 books for the month of May, which is fairly typical. I've been noticing between 6 and 8 books is how many I've been reading for each month, except for January, which was I can't say that word. You guys know what I'm trying to say. It was definitely a regular month. I read 16 books, but since then I've read between 6 and 8 books each month so far, and we are now about to be in June tomorrow, so today's the 30th that I'm filming this. I read about 24 days for the month of May, and like I said, I had read 8 books. I read 3.5 audiobooks, so I read 1 book half physically, half audio, and so for physical books I have 2.5, and then I have 2 ebooks that I read, and I actually did DNF 1 book this month, so technically I kind of read 9, but I didn't finish 1, and I don't think I'm going to finish it, and I'll talk about that one as well. So yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into the books that I read for this month. So the first book I read on May 1st, I actually finished this on May 1st because it was a very short one. It was an audiobook, and it was The Poetry of Emily Dickinson. I read this one, finished it on May 1st, and I gave this a rating of 4 stars. It's basically just some classic poems from Emily Dickinson, which I've read from her before, but I wanted to read some poetry, at least 1 poetry book this year. I didn't read any last year, and I had a goal to read at least 1, and so for this year I was like, I've got to get that goal. So yeah, it was really easy to listen to it on audiobook. Ever since I've discovered that I really enjoy audiobooks, that was one way to do that. So obviously the author is Emily Dickinson, and just some of her poems compiled all into this audiobook. Very interesting, a lot of dark themes with Emily Dickinson, which I don't know if I remember that, but it's really interesting to see a lot of emotion in her poetry, and it was just really kind of a classic little listen, really. It was about 1 hour and 14 minutes, so I went through that very quickly, which is why I finished it all on May 1st. Right, yes, the next book I read is also an audiobook, and it is What Happened to You with by Oprah Winfrey and Bruce D. Perry. I read a Bruce D. Perry book in April as well, and he writes a lot of things about like trauma and students and psychology, self-help type of things. I really enjoyed the book I read last month, and this month was no exception. I really liked this book, and having Oprah Winfrey also in this one as well gave me a lot of different perspective as well, because this is a similar book to the one I read last month. So this one, What Happened to You, I read it, or I listened to it on as an audiobook on Scribd. It was published in 2001, and this one is considered like a non-fic psychology kind of self-help book. And again, it's talking a lot about like trauma and talking about kind of getting to people's stories instead of just judging them right away based on their decisions or stuff like that. Actually thinking about why they're making those decisions or why they've become the way that they are based on the trauma that they went through and how resilient that particular person is, like asking what actually happened to them, their experience, and then figuring out how that shaped them, because of course people can have similar experiences and come out and make different choices, obviously. And so in this book in particular, Oprah was also sharing a lot of her personal stories, which I thought was very, very interesting, as well as some different case studies and examples showing how trauma affects us and how we can overcome it. And so I thought this was really excellent to read. I felt like it's another one that I really enjoy, and as a teacher, I've been trying to read more books like this throughout the year to kind of understand more about the actions of my students as well, because they also experience trauma. And a lot of times we as teachers, we just think of all the surface things, like, oh, this is why they're behaving this way, or maybe it's like, oh, they should know better, but in reality we don't know that. And so understanding that those traumas and things, and also how kids can be resilient and people in general, is very, very interesting. I gave this one 5 stars, A+ for me. It was about 8 hours and 27 minutes, but I flew through this one as well. And so yeah, really, really, really good. I would definitely recommend this one if you're looking for topics like that. Yeah, really, really good. Bruce D. Perry is definitely becoming someone I'm becoming a bit of a fan of his nonfiction works, and having Oprah on this, it seems like they're really good friends as well. I definitely enjoyed this one a lot. So very good. I might be reading some more from him. All right, the next book I read is Untouchable by Sam Mariano. I finished this one May 11th. This one was like, this is a romance, but kind of like some dark elements. I don't know if I truly all the way enjoyed this one, but it was published in 2018, and it's quite a longer book. But basically, we're following this girl who gets a popular football player suspended, and him and his friends get revenge. But the leader of this little group here won't let this be one isolated event of revenge, and he keeps going after her. Definitely a lot of like abusive elements in this one. So I wouldn't recommend this to everyone. And even myself, I was like, yeah, this is probably like a 2-star for me, which is like a D rating for me. But yeah, it was interesting to read it for this month, I guess. Okay. Moving along, I also read, this one was a big one for me. So this is the one I read partly physically, partly audiobook, mostly audiobook. I mean, this is huge. And this is the 7th book in the Dark Tower, which is, again, my theme for the month of May, because I knew I was going to be finishing the Dark Tower series finally. I have not read any of the like side stories or like the point whatever books. I'll probably read those later at some time, but I have finished all of the 7 novels in the series that are like part of this journey. And so this one obviously is The Dark Tower number 7 by Stephen King. And yes, oh my goodness, it's a beautiful book, really large, really big. I gave this one, in total, I was very excited about this because I was finishing this series that I've been reading for quite a few years, and I've read the last few books over the past year and last year as well. So I was very excited about this and had a lot of anticipation, but I knew this one was not one that everybody loved, and I feel like a lot of people were disappointed with this one. But yes, being as someone that I'm just not finishing this series, I have my thoughts. I ended up giving this a 3.75, so not quite a 4-star, right at that like B-, possibly even a C, honestly. I feel like this one, it just kind of let me down a bit. There were so many expectations, and I'm sure a lot of fans of this series felt this as well. So much expectation and so much built up to this really epic fantasy journey, like build up, that we were traveling to the Dark Tower with Roland and his band of friends and his group of friends. And they've suffered so many dangerous adventures, so many trials, so many heartbreaks, so many really sad moments, all of this to get to the Dark Tower. And I feel like it was a bit of a letdown once we got to the end. I won't completely spoil everything, as I don't want to have this be like that moment where I'm just like, but yeah, I just feel like it was a long time coming to finish this. And I was really anticipating the build up with a lot of these villains and antagonists that we've been built up and have all of this sort of kind of fear towards throughout the whole entire series. And I feel like the payoff for those villains and those interactions and those battles just was not paid off well. There were some really good battle, like tense moments in here, scary moments for Roland and some of the friends, but in reality, I feel like the biggest one that we were kind of expecting to have like this big like battle and fight and these like true enemies, it just did not come out as the way I would have thought. So yeah, it was a little disappointing. I really did like the very end of this book. I felt like that was really smart of Stephen King. This past like 2 or 3 books of the series became very meta, so it's like the worlds are intertwining. It's very much like a multiverse coming all together, and you see some like meta elements like Stephen King himself being, yeah, so it's really, really interesting. I'm trying not to give this away, but this also is a very old series. But yeah, if you have not read the Dark Tower series, I would definitely say pick them up, read them. I don't regret reading the series, but I will say that this last book was a bit of a disappointment in reality. Like, having read all the series and having this built up so much, I feel like the ending, the very, very ending, I like I said, once we see kind of this sort of twist that we have at the end, I really, really like the ending. I like that kind of ending in particular, but the build up to that, no. And I did like the emotional moments in it, like I said, and the meta elements, but I feel like with our villains that we were built up so much, it just was no payoff with like the Man in Black, Crimson King, Mordred. Oh, like there was no payoff for me. So anyways, I ended up giving that one a 3.75. But yeah, next I read Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. Now this one is, wow, oh my goodness, this was such a welcome surprise for me. And I actually was expecting to like this, but I didn't know the extent of how much I would like this. So this one by Octavia E. Butler, I finished on May 26th, and I ended up giving this one an A, or like 4.75. This one is a very short one, 288 pages, and I actually read this as an audiobook. I do have the physical copy, but I ended up reading it as an audiobook because I had a lot of extra time at the end of the year. When teachers at the end of the year, we kind of have this time to clean our rooms and get clean, everything set and put away for the summer, and we have to do a lot of different things to sign off with like the principals and stuff like that and people in the building. And I had all this extra time at the end of the year where I wasn't teaching students, but I was doing a lot of like not like tasks where you don't have to really think a lot, like cleaning and putting things away. So I had a lot of time to listen to the audiobook, and so I ended up finishing the audiobook in like 2 days, and I didn't really even have time to pick up the physical. I would like to go back and actually reread this physically as well. But anyways, this book is a historical sci-fi fantasy time travel book. Very similar. I had a lot of time travel this month. This is also having some like time travel, but like universe travel and fantasy elements as well. And this one have that as well, but a totally different topic, totally different story and plot, obviously. So this one, we're following this woman Dana as she is transported back in time to basically the antebellum Maryland and during the times of slavery. And she's coming from like the 1970s. She's married, and she's actually married to this white man, and she's going back in time and experiencing slavery again and again. And she comes to find out that the reason she keeps going back is because of this young boy, actually a little white boy, who is the son of a slave owner. And there's some connection, that she has connection with him, and every time he's in danger, she is transported back. Hopefully that's not too much information. I didn't just spoil that. But yes, definitely go into this one. I didn't read basically anything except for the back here a little bit. We're following Dana and Rufus, and I feel like this is a very thought-provoking book. I feel like you can go into it pretty much blind and get a lot out of it, but it was very intriguing concept from Octavia E. Butler. Like I said, I'm becoming a huge fan of Octavia. This is my 3rd book by her. Her concepts and thought processes is when she's writing books. It's just so interesting. And as you're reading this, you have so many different feelings and thoughts, especially me as a Black woman, so many different feelings and thoughts in this, and a different perspective I never thought of as well as I was reading this. But it was really sad reading this, thinking about our main character having to go back and experience this as someone coming from the 1970s, but also thinking about the people that were in that time, how they had to really just endure their circumstances, including the children also of the people that owned slaves, how they had to basically be indoctrinated into this thought process that this was normal and grow up into this, and basically they really didn't have I mean, they had, obviously everybody has choices, but it was really like they didn't know any other way. So it was a really interesting perspective. I think this is a wow story, and I definitely recommend it. A for me. The next book I read, or manga actually, so I read Fushigi Yugi, which I've had on my TBR for like months, I think since like February, and finally got around to it. It took me like a day to read this. But yes, I am a fan of the anime. I watched the anime. I didn't fully watch it, but I watched the anime a long time ago. And now reading this one, this is volume 1, The Mysterious Priestess. And it's by Yu Watase, the story and the art. This one I gave a C minus, or a 2.5 stars, and very short read, came out in 1999. I just feel like the reason I was kind of wanting to read this is a lot of it was nostalgia for the anime, and when I come back and read it as a bit older, and I wasn't even that young when I saw the anime, a lot of it is just kind of a little shallow. Actually, the story's a bit shallow. We're following Miyaki and Yu as they open the pages of this book, and they're transported to this alternate universe that is similar to ancient China, this parallel world. And yeah, Miyaki uses this book as an escape from her real world troubles, and she ends up becoming like the chosen one. A lot of tropes in this, instant romance, which I'm not a fan of, so very shallow in that aspect. Main character is kind of whiny, just uninteresting, and very typical. But again, this was 1999, so I mean, you know what I'm saying? It still wasn't the most interesting thing I read this month, so that's why I gave it a 2.5 or C minus. And again, this one also has elements of like traveling to different worlds and time travel, which seems to be a theme for the month of May. Okay, wow. All right, and then last 2 books I read. I actually finished both of these books today. Now, one of them I had been reading, and I only had like literally like 10% left, so it's nothing, like a few pages left. And the other one I read like half of it today, and I'm like finished it. And that's what having a lot of time will do with you, since I don't have to go to work today. But the first one I finished was Kaikei. This is the one I was like here this morning, maybe like here, not even halfway, and I finished all of this. And this one is a retelling sort of story, like a historical fiction, but a retelling, and it has a lot of characters from, I'm gonna be so inaccurate, excuse me, I apologize if I say this wrong, but Hindu religion and Hindu like stories. And we're following Kaikei, I don't know how to say the name either, I'm so sorry, which is the title of the book, and the story is by Bashivna Patel. And so we're following this woman who is a princess of one kingdom, and she becomes the third queen of another kingdom. And during this, she becomes like friendly. She doesn't fall like really in love with her husband, but she becomes friendly with the other wives in the kingdom, and they all have sons. And the sons end up being very important figures, including the son of the first wife, who is Rama, who actually is like a god in human form. And but the story is spinning it, because in like the real legend, like the real story from this religion, or from this country, or from this, I don't know, is Hindu, in Hindu religion, is that she was kind of a infamous character. She did something that is not considered good, but the retelling is kind of spinning it in a more feminist way, where she's actually kind of basically Rama is the son of the first queen, and he's kind of spun in this to be kind of impulsive, and like he's taken his god like he's taken his status as a god in human form as a way to like gain power and cause war and all this other stuff, and she's kind of like trying to prevent war and all this. And throughout the story, I really enjoyed the story. Like when I was reading it, I enjoyed it. I was following along with it. It wasn't like the most engaging thing ever. I do love a good like little fantasy retelling moment, but they're not like my absolute favorite thing to read. But yeah, I like the kind of take on it. But then when I was reading afterwards, when I finished the book, I was like, okay, that was good, but I felt like there were some things that were missing. Like the women in the book are just like all really good, basically, and there's nothing, they're kind of like, there's no nuance to their personalities or no gray area. You know, there was some, but not a lot. I feel like the author was really pushing it in this way that like all the men were like completely, I don't know. I mean, obviously there was a lot of obviously misogynistic ways, but like it was almost like there were no gray area for the women. They were all just like, oh, we need to fight for ourselves, and which is great, but there was no like realisticness to it. And also I feel like if you're kind of retell the story, you should put some of that into the story. Obviously you're trying to tell it from a different point of view, but yeah, anyways, I feel like it was kind of sugarcoating a lot of it. And then also when I was reading some perspective of people that actually are practicing of the Hindu religion, and this is part of their culture, they were kind of given this really low rating because they feel like it was kind of disrespectful in a sense. And I definitely kind of can relate to that in a sense. Like I feel like I don't know how to really explain myself in words, you guys. Maybe read my review on Goodreads. I mean, I think I've explained myself a bit more, where I feel like this could be taken the wrong way. And I don't think we have to take it that way. Obviously, this is a retelling. This is someone's story. This is someone's work. And I think the author did a really good job. She wrote really, really well. But I feel like there's also some like moments where if you're taking like such a beloved character and something that isn't part of someone's religion, and a character that is thought of as someone that did really good for people, and then kind of transporting that to a way that's a little disrespectful in a sense. I don't know if I'm explaining myself well. But anyways, that was a story. I did enjoy it. I gave it a 3.5 or 3. I gave it a 3 star out of 5. So 3 stars pretty good actually. That's my dog crying. She wants to get out. I'm gonna let her out in a second. But I don't know if I explained myself well with this, but I did enjoy the book. I did finish it obviously. So I don't know how to articulate that well. Sorry. And then the last book I read was ebook. I almost had 10% of it left, and it was part of my TBR as well, which is Taming Her Highland Legend by May Grayson. This was the number 2 in this time travel romance series. And I really enjoyed this one. It was a very simple story. Basically, this woman travels back in time, and she wants to go back to her own time, but she can't. She ends up falling in love with this lord. I don't know how to say it in the Scottish because it's like she goes back in time, and it's like Scotland. I don't know how to say it. The Lord. Laird, I don't know, Lord, and they end up falling in love, and he figures out she's from the future, etc., etc. Really cute, easy romance. I liked this one a little bit less than the first one, though. I would say I gave the first one like a 4 star. I would say maybe this one's a 3 star, but yeah, that one's a 3 star for me. Pretty good. Like I said, very short ebook. Took me like not that long to read it, and I kind of stopped reading it for a while, and then I finished the last 10% today. I was like, I can finish this today for my wrap up. Okay. But anyways, that was the last book I finished for this month. And so of my TBR, the things on my TBR were The Dark Tower, Kindred, Fushigi Yugi, Poetry of Emily Dickinson, Taming Her Highland Legend, Kaikei, and What Happened to You. And I read all 7 of those books off of my TBR, plus that extra one, Untouchable. And so 8 books in total. And I'm so glad I read every book on my TBR. That's a what am I trying to say? English. That is a accomplishment that I don't often do. But unfortunately, I didn't finish all the books. This is one book that I was reading in April as well, and I am just not getting into this one. I think I'm going to have to say this is my first DNF of the year. I'm just so bored with this story. I am interested to see where the story goes. Because this is also a retelling. Like I said, retellings are not like my absolute favorite. All the retellings I've read so far have not been my favorite this year. I had a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. didn't absolutely love that one. This retelling one here, didn't absolutely love this one. Then this one is a retelling of Arthurian legends, which I actually really love the Arthur legends, but again, I'm just not loving this. So I'm like at the middle. I'm gonna say I'm gonna DNF this one about 50%, you guys, and I'm just, maybe I'll pick this back up. I know I shouldn't force myself to read something, or maybe I'll pick it up next year, but for now I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm not finishing this one. So first DNF of the year, and we're halfway through the year. I probably should have DNF some more books that I didn't love, but I sometimes can't do that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this reading month, you guys. I'm excited for June. I already filmed my TBR. I have 10 books on my TBR for June, which is ambitious, but also I have a lot more time to read, so we'll see. But yeah, that's it for this wrap up, you guys. Let me know what you read for the month of May. Did you enjoy your reading month, or did you read it all? Let me know down below in the comment section. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel, and I will check you out in the next video very, very soon. Stay safe. Adios.